Just like Michelangelo into the blue, on heavenly wings. Cargo ham bones don't take off, no smoke, no mirror, no strings. I can't take off these dark shades, I can only say how it's too beautiful. Our town on TV, our town. There's you and me, upside down, hanging out of an airplane.
Hi, welcome to Our Town. I'm from Merrimac Senior Center, and I'd like to introduce Annmary, who will introduce her guest.
We're here today to see Congressman Tierney at the Merrimac Senior Center and our wonderful host, Laura Mailman. So Laura is the Council on Aging Director here in Merrimac, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Annmary, and welcome. This is the Merrimac Senior Center. I am Laura Dillingham Mailman, the director here in Merrimac at the Council on Aging, and we're very pleased to have Congressman Tierney here today to speak with us about issues that may be of interest to seniors and others as well. We're going to be listening to him and asking any questions that we may have, and we would like to welcome the Congressman to our Senior Center and thank him for the time that he has taken to be with us.
So let's get started.
It's very important that we have these opportunities, that we have to be able to speak with our congressman in person, and to me it's amazing that you found the time to do so. Well, so we thank you very much. And amongst us, we have some star celebs here. We have a number of directors, and it might be helpful if we kind of went around the room.
Excellent.
So,
go ahead, sure.
You can get to know who is here.
Excellent.
Teresa.
I'm Teresa Poor from the West Newbury Council on Aging.
Elizabeth Pettis from the Salisbury Council on Aging.
I'm Ted Irvin. I'm a director with Elder Services in Merrimac Valley.
Gloria Lasner from Amesbury, just a citizen.
Yay! We like just citizens.
I'm Elaine Andrew Lewis, and I'm from Newburyport.
Virginia, behind.
Oh.
Virginia McMahon.
Say your name and where you come. Virginia. Merrimac.
And my name's Luann, and I'm from Newbury, and I'm on the board, and I also work for Elder Services.
I'm Marty Joe. I'm the Newbury Council on Aging Director.
Bill Parker. I'm a citizen. Aaron Young from Georgetown.
I'm Betty Lane from Merrimac.
I'm Dan Hobbs. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Programs for Elder Services.
Susan Politniak from Elder Services Merrimac Valley. I'm the Healthy Aging Program Manager.
Annmary Connor, Amesbury Council on Aging Director.
I'm Dayna Brown. I'm the Director of Community Programs at Elder Services and a citizen.
Muriel McNeil from Merrimac.
And I'm Laura Dillingham Mailman. I'm the director here in Merrimac. I also serve on the Board of Elder Services, past president of Massachusetts Councils on Aging, and a whole bunch of other things. But anyway, we welcome you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Well, thank everybody for coming on this. This gives me a good perspective of seniors and people that are working on seniors issues and disability issues as well. There's a lot of interconnection there at certain levels on that. So Dayna, thank you for helping to organize this group. Laura, thank you as well. This is just an informal discussion, so I don't want it to look like it's too formal on that or whatever. Basically, I'd like to listen to whatever issues you want to raise and tell me about how things are affecting your life and what needs you might have or questions that you might have on what's going on. And I don't want to limit it to just issues that people traditionally associate with seniors. We can talk about education, we can talk about energy, jobs, the economy, international affairs, whatever you might want to speak on. I understand that Social Security is an important factor for people, and Medicare as well. It is the 75th anniversary of Social Security, and so I have some comments prepared to say on that. Obviously, it's a program that I've always thought was important to everybody. I know periodically we have the contest between those who think it ought to be privatized and those of us who think very strongly that it should not, and take on that. But you know, particularly in times, difficult economic times, the people that have traditionally not been in favor of Social Security find a way to get out and try to take advantage of that feeling of the uncertainty or whatever to attack the program again. The fact of the matter is, and we've got some slides over there if Michaela wants to go on those or whatever, but you know, it's not Social Security that has at all caused our economic situation right now. So I think that's the one thing that is first and foremost, I think, a message that we ought to have. We've had a number of people that have expressed some uncertainty to us about the status of their Social Security and how valid, how long it's going to be. I have a couple of things that I think are pertinent to almost all parts of our district here. The average Social Security retirement benefit is only $14,000 a year. Most of you probably know that somewhere in that ballpark, but the median income, you know, those that make more than half of this, half make more than this and half make less than this one, is $24,000. So you can see that about 6 out of every 10 seniors rely on Social Security for the majority of their income. It's important. It's critical. 90% or more of their income is what 1 in 3 enjoy. Right? So 1 out of every 3 people rely on Social Security for 90% or more of their income. If that's an average of $14,000 per year, you can see how important it is that that amount not be diminished in any sort. So when we start talking about privatization, as we did in 2005 when President Bush was promoting that, you'll remember that we came around to all the senior centers and senior groups and talked very strongly against that notion, thinking that it was not something that would be good for the economy or good for the society as a whole. I think now, if we imagine back what would have happened had we privatized Social Security in 2005, people have lost about 36% of their equities and stocks and other investments on that. So you can imagine what that does to the average $14,000 payment. If you take 36% off that, and 1 in 3 people rely on it for more than 90% of their income, or even others, 6 in 10 rely on it for the majority of their income, it's devastating. So there are people out now in Congress who are proposing a privatization again. Paul Ryan, who's the ranking member, the Republican ranking member of the Budget Committee, has quite extensive political position out there that the Republicans seem to have adopted, and it is again privatization of Social Security. So I'm certain that we're going to be able to defeat that. I think we had the ability in 2005 to do it when we were in the minority. Now we're in the majority. We're certainly not going to let that happen. But people ought to know that that's a choice that they have, and this is a distinction that we have going forward on that basis. So 75 years has made us stronger. That combined with Medicare, before those were in place, over 50% of our seniors were living in poverty. Right? And now we're in the single digits, obviously, so it's had a tremendous impact on that. I think a lot of people, I talk to younger people, I remind them that because their parents aren't spending all that money on their grandparents, they're getting a prospect of going to school or getting some job training or something else that their parents can help them with that they might not otherwise be able to help. And I remind them that Social Security is not just retirement. You know, that also has a program for disability, and there's a good segment of people that get disabled and need that subsistence to live on. And I think we all know somebody, a neighbor, or a friend who's like that. It's that situation. Or survivorship. We have a number of people whose parents, the breadwinner of the family, passes away, can no longer earn, and they get Social Security benefits to sustain them through that. And a number of my colleagues, coincidentally enough, in Congress have had that experience. Richie Neal right here in Springfield, he lost both his parents at an early age. And if it wasn't for Social Security benefits, he probably never would have had the opportunities that he had in life. So it's a strong program. It's resilient. We have trustees that sort of monitor the program every year, and they tell us what the strength of that program is. Right now, they say that through 2037, the program is fine. They'll pay 100% out for everybody all the way through that period of time. And prospectively, I think with some minor adjustments, obviously, it'll push it out beyond that. And that's one of the reasons why the President formed his commission on long-term deficit and long-term debt. I'm sure that even though they're not associated directly, that they'll talk about that issue and what they might do. And we've always thought strongly, always about 24, 25 ideas of minor things that could be done, a couple of which, if put in place, would kick that date out for 2037 well beyond. Some of us remember that back in Ronald Reagan's, the end of his first term, Social Security was about 2 weeks away from having not enough income to pay out. And he got Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House at that time, to sit down. They formed a commission and they came up, they made some minor adjustments, and it actually gave 75 years more of life to the program. So we've seen it in the past. We make adjustments with any large piece of legislation to make sure that it goes forward when it's important on that, and that's, you know, what we think is going to definitely have to be done here. It's affordable, doesn't add to our debt, because it pays for itself. We all pay into it on that basis, and it's a promise, I think, that all of us have come to rely on and should be able to rely on going forward. So we're going to preserve it, and we're going to strengthen it, and I think that's going to be a bedrock promise that we keep for this generation and to other generations as we move forward on that basis.
I have a question.
Sure.
How are you planning on strengthening it?
We're going to strengthen it by making sure that we make those adjustments that we need to make so that it goes out, and there's a range of options. As I said, about 24, 25. One option that Ted Kennedy used to champion was the idea of lifting the limit right now. Right now, you get payroll to a certain level is subject to it, and everything beyond that doesn't pay that tax anymore.
Right.
That would make a big difference on that basis. So there's just one idea that people have to make sure that it's stronger. The other is, if, you know, the stronger our economy, you know, we get our economy back up and going, that automatically kicks it up. As your economy grows, then it pushes that date out all by itself. That's part of the reason why you see it fluctuate. 2037 now, tomorrow if the economy would start to grow at a rate of 3 or 4%, it would move out. If it stays the way it is, it won't move out, you know, on that basis. So those are the uncertainties that you have, but as I say, 2037 is a good ways out, and I think in the next several years we'll start talking about those minor things. Right now, obviously, it's the politics. People are afraid to touch that rail and decide, you know, that they want to take one option over another, because there's always somebody who doesn't believe in that choice as opposed to another. So it's going to get to a point where we have to sit down and talk about it and move on.
Well, I don't have a problem with privatizing it because I worked and, you know, I have a 401k, and I can tell you I get more benefit from my 401k than I do Social Security.
Well, you must be a good investor, because the average 401k lost 36% in 2008.
I mean, you reach a certain age, and I mean, obviously you're not going to be in the risk factor on that.
Well, a good investor will not be. Unfortunately, not everybody's a good investor on that, and that's the risk shifts from the government.
Planned on, you know, putting it in bad investments at the time when they were talking about privatizing, you know, for the younger people.
You would have to decide what investments you want. So it wasn't that the government was the people were going to have the money and they were going to
be safe. Same as where I work, they're safe investments for a certain age.
Some people here might want to disagree with that. They've seen that act before.
Well, they're young.
Oh, thanks for the compliment.
I think, you know, when you're 60, when you're 57, when you're 63 or whatever, you may think you're young when you're older than that or whatever, but you're still at that age where you have to be concerned. And I can tell you, I've made people all across the line here that lost a job and lost about 36–40% of their retirement on that.
Naturally.
Well, 8 million people have lost their jobs through the end of 2008. But that's what we're saying basically, is if you privatize it and you hit a situation like this, your retirement takes a hit.
You can lose your job in the private sector too.
You could. But many people more do when you get a situation like this, and then it impacts it, and that's why we think at least
it's your 401k.
But not everybody makes
to
that.
Take it, okay, still would be earning some money.
Maybe. It didn't for people. When the average loss is 36%, it didn't earn money for a lot of people when the economy went down. And their savings got hit, the value of their home went down.
I did not lose that percentage.
I think that's wonderful. But what I'm telling you is when I go around the district and I talk to other people and we get these figures from around the country, a lot of people did. When you say the average account lost 36%, that's a lot of people
how many
who
people
did.
in here have a 401k and have lost 36%? You did? You must have been in high risk.
Well, no, I was in moderate risk, and I mean, I have friends who were retired who had to cut back the amount that they were taking out because of that.
So what we take out of this is that you should become an investment counselor.
Yeah.
We should all sign up with you.
If they're investing for me, they should do it.
And they should give that name out and
I
let them
have
go.
another question,
Sure,
and
go
I
ahead.
know this from a fact. When I was working, this family brought over their mother and father from Austria, and Austria had to leave. You can't take your income with you.
Right.
But yet, they were able to put them on SSI. That's where I think it's wrong. They never contributed one dime, okay, to any of social programs, and yet they were able to capitalize on what the rest of us who have worked, okay, and put money into, and they were able to receive money. Now, I don't think that's right. I really don't.
Is that where they become citizens, Gary?
No, they did not
under
become
the
citizens.
totalization agreements that
Right.
there are 17 or 18 countries that the United States has what's called a totalization agreement. If they had contributed to their own social security, social insurance, the United States government has a reciprocal agreement with, I think it's 18 to 20 countries, whereby they can take out of the...
So if you move to their country, they have to take care of you the same way.
Correct.
It's a reciprocity thing.
As long as you're legal.
So they pay into theirs, they forfeit theirs.
I don't believe they became legal citizens. I could be wrong.
I don't know, but I think Gary makes a good point that I had forgotten until he mentioned that. It's a reciprocity thing. So if you in turn had to give up your benefits here and went over to that country, they would take care of you.
We're working with somebody in Canada right now.
I was thinking we had a case in the office, and that's why we did it, but I hadn't thought of it like you did. That's good. This is news to us until we started looking into the research on that, because it sounded, when you hear about it first blush, you say, that isn't right. You say, how does that happen? But if we started to do the research, we found out that that's because of reciprocity. If it were a country that didn't have the reciprocity, they wouldn't get it on that basis on that. But it does sound at first blush like, whoa, effect on it.
Could I ask a question, just kind of globally? How are other countries faring that have similar programs as our Social Security, and what kinds of things can we learn from them, or are they learning from us? Or
well, you know, every country is having difficulty financially on that. A lot of countries have stronger programs than we have, stronger benefits, you know, so-called welfare benefits on that. And their people didn't go down as much, say a Germany, which has a stronger plan, and some of the Nordic countries on that.
Right.
But they have more taxes taken out.
Right.
So in that sense, when things went bad, their trust funds were larger, and so they had a little bit of a cushion on that. Same thing with their unemployment. They had more extensive unemployment benefits and health benefits, so when the things turned down, it didn't impact those individuals as much because they had the protection there. We have good protections, but we don't have that level of protection on that, so it impacted a lot of families here to a more severe degree. So it sets up on that. So, sure.
Yeah. I have just a general investment portfolio, and I did lose money. Thank goodness my income has remained the same, but I lost money. And I always was thinking, Social Security, well, it's security, and that's a portion of
it's
my
the insurance
income.
part of it. You're right.
Yeah, and it's very secure feeling. So I'm very much against, I guess, privatization because of the risks involved.
Well, I think, you know, it's funny to try to keep track of all the different aspects of the Social Security, and the insurance part of it is major. When you move it into your own private account, all the risks are on you. So if you're a good investor, a wise investor, or have good counsel and have good fortune, then maybe not such a problem. But if you have a good advisor who picks the wrong stock, or the wrong investments, doesn't always have to be stock or something like that. If they put it in real estate went down, and people have lost substantially in their real estate values. So they might have put it what they call a REIT, R-E-I-T, it could have gone down. So the idea of Social Security, of course, is we share the risk. It's spread across the whole society. It's insurance, and that way you can count on it.
That's why I like it.
And if you only have $14,000, you know, the average account like that, that's something you're desperate to even worry about any fluctuation. So one of the parts of that we're talking about a lot now is the cost of living adjustment. You know, it's set up right now by the laws on that is that the cost of living is determined every year by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So they have a market basket of goods, things that the average family will buy in the course of a year or pay for. And if that goes up, you know, if the costs go up, then you have a cost of living increase, and your Social Security follows that. However, if it doesn't go up, then you don't get a cost of living increase. And we talked to some folks yesterday, and the fellow was right on point. He said, well, it seems like my costs are going up. It doesn't seem like any of my costs are going down. How can you tell me that we didn't get a cost of living increase? And I said, you're absolutely right, for two reasons. One is, you look at the previous year, and things like the cost of gasoline and oil, all those things were actually higher than they were last year. There's a number of those factors that go into that basket so that the basket didn't rise in cost. So that gets stuck on that. The other is seniors have a different set of things that they buy. And healthcare and medications being one of the primary ones on that. I filed a bill, and we're trying to move it through on that would have a separate COLA for seniors, for elderly, on that would take into account the things that they normally buy in the course of their year. And then I think it's about 0.37, you know, 3,700% more of the cost of living that a senior would incur, so that you'd be assured of a little bit more of a cost of increase than others on that to adjust for that. So that's one bill we filed. Last year in 2009, when there was no cost of living increase, it was The previous year had been lower than this year. We did put in the Recovery and Reinvestment Act that we passed $250 rebate for all the seniors, realizing that, you know, it's just a difficult time, and, you know, even though they didn't qualify under the then existing law for that, we put the 250 in, which was as much or more than most would have received on that. The other thing is your Medicare Part B don't increase. If there's no cost of living increase, then your Medicare Part B does not increase either. And the other aspect on that is that this year, it looks like there's not going to be a cost of living increase, so we're co-sponsoring a bill to put another $250 rebate in for people to sort of help with that a little bit. Yeah, well, it's difficult times, and that's the point. You know, if I have a criticism as president, who I think is working really hard and is difficult, he's probably the most articulate president we've had in a long time. And I think it would be helpful to go out and explain to people a little bit more about the urgency of everybody working together on the situation, about everybody putting their shoulder to the wheel. There's a lot of politics being played by everybody on this whole issue because people are upset, they're anxious, the anxiety turns into anger or whatever, so it's easy in a political season to try to play off of that. We play off prejudices, we play off anger. The real problem is you got to get us out of this situation. We know the situation we're in. We can track how we got there. You know, and you know, the end of 2008, we lost 800,000 jobs that month. Just that month. In the beginning of 2009, almost the same amount. From 2007 to the end of 2008, we lost 8 million jobs. So it was a lot of different things. It was spending money that we didn't pay for things, the Iraq War, tax cuts in 2001, 2003, the so-called prescription drug benefit in 2003 that didn't turn out to be such a good deal for seniors because a lot of people fell into that donut hole of the gap, and we really didn't get these prescription drug companies to negotiate with us. They sort of let them off the hook. So all of that stuff, it gets you about $11.5 trillion of debt. It's huge. So now you've got to get out of this situation. The banks had a problem. Credit was freezing. So we've got to somehow get people up to say, this is something we all have to work out together. You know, and we have cities and towns and the state that aren't getting the tax revenue they used to get. So they've got a problem how they're going to maintain the roads, keep the schools going, keep their health clinics going, all of that basis. You've got businesses that, even though they're starting to get more money now, and they're getting a little bit a better situation or whatever, they're still reluctant to spend. So they've got a little bit of dough. They're getting more productivity out of the people that are working. The people that are still there, they're squeezing them and they're working. Instead of hiring that extra person, they're just working the others more hard. They might be paying them a little bit more. They might even put somebody on overtime a little, but they're not going out and actually making that other hire. And when that happens, you know, the question is, well, who's going to spend the money? Businesses and families aren't. The consumers are holding back. Cities and towns don't have it to go. Well, we turn to all the economists. You know, and this is everybody from, you know, David Walker, who's with the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, one of the most conservative groups out there. And he's a smart guy. He used to be the head of the General Accountability Office. Very, very conservative. You got Greg Menkiw, who was with George W. Bush. He was his economic advisor. You got Mark Zandi, who was John McCain's advisor. And you go all the way down the spectrum to, say, Paul Krugman, who writes in the New York Times, a more progressive guy. The one thing they could all agree on is you have two choices. Either nobody spends, you know, and because the federal government just says, oh, look, we've got $11.5 trillion of debt, so we shouldn't do this now. In that case, they look at Japan. Japan had that situation in the late 80s, early 90s. They chose to do nothing for the longest while. They sort of went into deflation, spiraled down, and their economy was down for 15 plus years. They're still fighting back on that. The other is that you sort of do the counter-cyclical thing. You say, well, the federal government is the one government that can borrow, and even as distasteful, when you've got that large thing out there, you have to distinguish between a short-term borrowing to get people back to work that won't add on to your long-term debt or whatever, and that long-term debt which has to be attacked at the right time. So that was what the Recovery Act was about. It was about, you know, giving people a tax cut. About 98% of the people got a tax cut, about $800 a year on that. We put some money out to the states and cities and towns so that they didn't have to lay off hundreds of thousands of teachers and firefighters and police and on that basis, which only would have exacerbated the problem. I think the number was that for every 350,000 or so people on the public payroll, like teachers and firefighters, you lose another 81,000 in other sectors because they're not spending any money and the other sectors sort of drop down. And the other third of it went into trying to create jobs and save jobs in the construction industries and the information technology and the smart grid and all those things that did two things: invest the money in things that would keep us competitive or make us competitive as we get out of this situation, and the other put people back to work. So when you look at it, well, did that work? You know, people say, well, we're still mired in this mess. So some people want to say no. Others, like Mark Zandi, again, John McCain's guy, and Alan Blinder, who used to be with the Federal Reserve, they did an empirical study, and they said, well, yeah, it did. You know, if you hadn't done it, you would have lost 8 million more jobs. You would have had 2 to 4% taken off your gross domestic product. And right now, it saved or gained about 3 to 3.5 million jobs. But the problem was you had already lost 8, and you had 2 to 3 million more new people come into the job market in the interim. So you get 3.5, but you need a lot more. So that's the choices people have. You know, you keep trying to work out of this. Why can't we get everybody to work in the same direction? Because we don't have anybody working. Then not only you're not going to have people paying for Social Security, you're not going to have people paying anything to keep your cities and towns going and to get our economy back going. So that's sort of the struggle that people are doing now. Sure.
Everybody knows Annmary Connor, the director for the Amesbury Senior Center, so I'm going to give her the mic and let her introduce everybody.
Welcome to our town. We're here today in Merrimac with Congressman Tierney. Very excited to have you here.
Happy to be here. It was a good morning's discussion.
It was. And we have Dayna Brown from Elder Services in the Merrimac Valley. You want to tell us a little bit about what you do, Dayna?
Yeah, I'm the Director of Community Programs at Elder Services. I oversee all of our federal grant programs, our Older Americans Act programs.
Great. So Dayna does a lot of great stuff with Elder Services. We see her around a lot. She's a wonderful support. And also, Congressman Tierney, we have a big party coming up on August 26th.
We do. Finally going to break some ground on a good building project that's going to put some people to work and get your senior center located.
That's right. We're very excited.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
August 26th, 10:15.
Now you know. Now you know.
15 Railroad Ave.
Good to see you there.
Thank you myself.
Sure.
One thing for coming, but I got to tell you, filming the event, you talked with a lot of facts. It was very slow. Everybody had a chance to ask whatever they wanted to ask. And watching it, I'm serious. You were great. And the facts, when the viewers watch this, it's really going to show how much you know about what's going on.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
And your sincerity. Thank you.
Jane,
Thank you, Annmary.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Jane, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away. That's it from the Merrimac Senior Center. So work hard, stay healthy, and please take time to care for someone, right?
That absolutely.
We're out of here. Bye-bye.
Amesbury Senior Center.
Anytime. Bye-bye.
Just like Michelangelo into the blue on heavenly wings. Cargo ham bones don't take off, no smoke, no mirror, no strings. I can't take off these dark shades. I can only say how it's too beautiful. Our town on TV. Our town, there's you and me. Upside down, hanging out of an airplane.